There are a couple of things, a couple of concepts that I want to ask you about while we close it out here. One is, I'm trying to remember exactly how it was phrased. I think I saw it this morning or yesterday, but basically it was about like dating. And it was like, if there's any confusion about how they feel, like that's your answer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that?
Oh dear. Oh my. Thanks for putting me in the hot spot. No, I don't think so.
I love your responses.
Look, it means that they clearly don't want to commit to you right now. Like if you've, okay, wait, clarifying question.
Yeah.
Have you asked them and they said, I don't know, or their behavior is screaming, they don't know?
I don't know. I just saw it on social media.
Great, thanks.
And they were basically just saying like, it was one of those like empowerment kind of accounts. And it's like, if you're confused, like that's your answer. And I'm like, I kind of get like back to my thing. I was like, I was never confused. I knew exactly where he stood. But I think there's nuance. I don't think every situation is like that.
I would say there's nuance. I think for the most part, I'd say, yeah, I like that because then people are not wasting their time. But what if you have different communication styles? What if they need more time to process their feelings before expressing them? What if they're not a texter? What if they're not? So I say yes, but use it with caution and give people the benefit of the doubt. Like ask, if you're confused, ask and be like, I'm not, your behavior is kind of indicating to me that you're not into this, or I'm very confused, which makes me feel like you're not into this. Let's talk about it. But I think just walking away from relationships because one day you didn't feel super appreciated by this person is a little extreme. So I think clarifying is great. But if you are constantly confused, then I think it does track.
I love what you said though about like asking.
Yeah.
Communicate. Be assertive. I remember when I got sober, I had so many resentments and I was doing this exercise where I had to like look at all the resentments and look for my part. You're probably familiar with it. And so much of my part was like, I didn't assert myself. And so I would find myself in these situations where I felt like people were doing things to me or like treating me certain ways. But I didn't communicate. Like that's my part. And it's so important to remember that like you have a voice. And maybe it goes back to what you were saying before, like we're scared to communicate and scared to assert ourselves because we're so afraid of being rejected.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is the number one reason we're not asserting ourselves, or lack of self-awareness where we don't actually know what we want to communicate with the person. But I would rather be rejected for asking what I want than be loved by someone who doesn't know me. Or doesn't
mic drop
or doesn't give me what I need. And so I think when you think cost benefit analysis, which is something I get my clients to do all the time, it doesn't add up. So I always think, and not just that, but staying quiet is self-abandonment, it's self-betrayal. It makes you, it really warps your sense of identity. And so there's just no positive outcome. And that relationship won't survive without you asserting yourself. And we think we're protecting the relationship when in reality, we are sort of avoiding temporary discomfort for a more permanent problem. And I think that that's kind of an important thing to have in the back of our head whenever we're feeling like a little anxious to bring up things. And of course, it's scary. No one wants to be rejected. But if you're rejected for your needs, that's not your person.
Yeah. Everything. Cosign everything you just said there. And I think that self-abandonment piece is so important. And I feel like that's where that turmoil is created, where suddenly you have this inner world where like you're not communicating your needs, your thoughts, whatever it is. And then your outer world is something completely different. And there's this like tug of war. And that's when we end up how you and I ended up.
That's how we ended up. And I think if you're someone who finds themselves just daydreaming a lot or fantasizing a lot and having a very different type of life in your head than what you're experiencing, often that's, sometimes called maladaptive coping, of having a very different reality of like, I would have said this and I would have asked for that. And next time and so it's just saying that, hey, maybe you're not expressing yourself in the most authentic way and you're finding sort of an alternate reality in which you can do that. And let's bring it into the present moment.